I can't tell you just how happy my heart is that Moriah has reached this point in her life.
Hello and welcome. Today we are talking about Welcome to Plathville, Season 5, Episodes 3 and 4. I didn't do a video last week, so this video is about 2 episodes. Let's get started. Alright, let's talk about Season 5, Episode 3. This show starts out over at Kim's apartment in Cairo. Micah is over to visit and they're going to have breakfast together. Now while he's there, they talk a little bit about their divorce and Kim dating and Barry dating. And you can tell when Micah is talking, I mean, he's really honest about it. It's all really shocking to him that his parents are getting divorced. He could not tell that there were issues at all. He didn't see anything. And Kim just says, that's something you don't want to put on your kids. I think a part of him not seeing it, though, was really because I don't think Kim and Barry were fighting and arguing around the house. I think this is a situation where the spark was really just gone. And so there wasn't much for the kids to see unless they were looking for that. And I don't think they were. I think the last few years, Micah and Moriah and Ethan have been off doing their own thing. They've not been focusing on what's going on between mom and dad. So I don't think they would have noticed it. You can tell when they're talking, and this is something that Micah talks about on the show, you know, their relationship has changed. It's no longer something where Micah's the child and Kim is the adult. They're talking about things that are serious. They're talking about adult things. She's not laying out, anything that I think is, anything she shouldn't share. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't think she's putting too much out there, but she is answering the questions that he has about it. He asked Kim, what would happen if dad starts dating? And Kim says, I would be fine with it. That's one of the reasons I knew the relationship was over was I don't care if he dates. I think it would be good for him. So I think that was really shocking for Micah to hear. There's a little bit of chit chat. She talks to Micah about whether or not he's ready to date. And he says he just wants a hot girl. I think he's just really young and he's not ready for anything serious. But that's it. We just get a little insight to how he feels about the divorce. I am going to put in a clip here so you can hear him talking about it on his own.
I guess that means they didn't have much of a connection. They weren't one anymore.
He does go on a little bit further and say that he has questions he wishes he could ask her, but doesn't want to make her feel uncomfortable. He wants to know, if she really needs this, did she really try as hard as she could? But he doesn't want to make her feel guilty or imply that she's being selfish. I think it's sort of just what I said, though, before. I think these kids have moved out of the house. They're doing their own thing. They're not really seeing mom and dad, in the relationship for what it is. I think they lost touch with each other when it came to a romantic relationship. And I think it's been so long that Kim is ready to move on. People do that. They'll stay in a relationship and so much time passes that it reaches a point where they're just like, I don't want to try. I want to go. I'm ready to go. And I think Kim has done that. At least that's how I feel. I'm sure some of you are going to disagree, but you can go ahead and let me know in the comments what you think. I just think the kids weren't seeing that there wasn't anything romantic. I think mom and dad were coexisting in a house. And of course, if the kids didn't expect it, they're surprised and have plenty of questions. But Micah, I think, wants to be very careful with what he asks because he doesn't want to make his mom feel guilty. He says that. I think that's true. And that's really it. That's where breakfast ends. And then we move over to Olivia and her sister, Lydia. During the next part of the show, we see Lydia visiting down in Tampa. She is staying in what would have been Ethan, Nathan, and Olivia's home. But Ethan is gone. He is in Cairo. So Nathan and Olivia are there. Lydia is visiting. And honestly, it just looks like it is good for all of them to reconnect and bond and have some time together alone without anyone else. So during this part of the show, they try on clothes and shoes. And they decide they want to put makeup on Nathan, and they convince him to go along with it, and he does. He briefly talks about how in the conservative Christian community, a young man putting on makeup would have been completely unacceptable, but how he is just going to go for it. I'm going to put in a little clip of him talking here.
I've kind of come to the conclusion that if it's not going to kill you, kind of why not do it?
And before someone gets their fingers going, typing stuff in the comment section, I'm not reading anything more into this than a brother wanting to hang out with his sisters and letting them put some makeup on him. To me, this was just 3 young people who didn't really get to do certain things during their childhood that now they're doing them, and it was just a brother being a good sport. So don't even come in the comment section about him putting makeup on, because to me it really was just that. That is all I'm taking away from it. I'm glad they're getting to do things that make them happy and bond and reconnect. So that's what I took away from this. And I hope they do try things that they might have been discouraged from doing before, because it sounds like their upbringing was so incredibly strict, it sometimes hindered them from being truly happy and who they wanted to be. So I'm glad they're reconnecting. It's during this time, though, that Olivia talks about the accusations that Moriah has made against her regarding the music. And Olivia says she did not steal any money. She did not steal the music. She had set up the accounts because Moriah didn't know how. And then when Moriah moved out and she wanted access to those accounts, she didn't have it because it was all in Olivia's name. It was Olivia's stuff. So Olivia took it all down and sent it to Moriah, according to her, and she wants to be done with the whole thing. She's over it. She also sent financial papers over to prove that she never stole any money from Moriah. It all went back into Moriah's accounts. And Olivia points out she has a business. She keeps her papers and her financial stuff. And I'm going to be honest, I believe Olivia. I think she seems like someone who really tries to, be responsible with things. I don't think she would have went and stole money from Moriah. I just don't. I think it's possible that Moriah, is misunderstanding what happened here. Lydia talks about how close her family was to the Plath family, and she asked Nathan and Olivia where they stand now and how they feel about it. Nathan says it really hurts, but ultimately he's going to stick up for his sister. So there's a few more scenes of them goofing around, but really that's all that there is of that part. And after this, we see Moriah taking ballroom dancing lessons. And I think the thing we need to remember about Moriah is this. I'm going to put in a clip.
I feel like I'm searching for all these things that help me, find me.
We're seeing Moriah do a lot. She's writing songs, she's making music, she's ballroom dancing, she's a bartender, she's moved around a few times, she's gotten a dog. She really seems to be someone who is looking for something, and it's during this time we find out that she's ballroom dancing seriously enough that she's actually going to be entering into a competition. We also find out that she is going to be getting baptized, and that is it. It's really a short little part there with Moriah, but I did think it got straight to the point. She's looking for something. She's trying to figure out who she is. After this, we see Isaac, Micah, and Barry are all going bowling. It's during this time that Barry says that all the kids are handling the divorce really well, but the boys specifically have their own way of dealing with it, and that is by spending time with him and trying to get him out of the house and to go do something with him. So we've seen them working out together. Barry's been hitting the gym with the boys, but now they're bowling. That is what they are doing in this episode, and honestly, it's really adorable. It's probably my favorite part of the show. They just look like they're having a great time. It seems like Barry's a great dad too. If you doubt it, I feel like watching this part just shows how much he genuinely loves his kids. If you haven't believed it before, it's just really a nice kind of heartwarming bowling trip. They set a goal for themselves to get 300 points. That is a perfect score in a bowling game. For every 15 points they are below 300, they have to eat a hot dog to make up for it. So when the game is over, Barry is supposed to eat 9 hot dogs, Micah is supposed to eat 11, and Isaac's supposed to eat 11. I'm going to throw a picture up here so you guys can see it. It's kind of funny. There's so many hot dogs. The only one who's able to eat them all is actually Isaac. He eats 11 hot dogs. But it's just kind of one of those heartwarming things. It seems like Barry, he's sometimes an awkward dude, but he seems to really love his kids. And it's kind of endearing. I think I like Barry a little bit more from this. Don't always agree with him. Don't think he's made the best parenting choices all the time. But I'm starting to like him more. He talks about his relationship with Ethan during this time too, because he says he wishes Ethan had been there. It would be more fun if Ethan was there. And then he says he's not getting involved with what's happening right now with this whole accusation about Olivia stealing the music and the posts that have been made online. He's staying out of it. He says he is not going to jump into this. He's just waiting, and he believes at one point he is going to get to reconnect with Ethan. He's just got to stick it out. Like right now at this moment, it's not good, but he believes the future will be better for them. So let me know what you guys thought in the comments. I want to know, was I like looking into this too much or giving Barry too much credit? Sometimes I'm accused of that, like giving some of the dads on the shows too much credit, but I thought he was so likable during this part, and sometimes he annoys me. Sometimes Barry gets on my nerves, but I did enjoy this bowling scene on the show. The next part is really short and sweet. We see Lydia, Olivia, and Nathan at a kava bar. They are there to watch Nathan play his guitar and sing. If you've watched this show, you know that the Plath children all play instruments and at one time had all sang together. It is the same deal for Olivia's family. So Nathan plays the guitar, but Lydia and Olivia both play the violin. So while they are there, Olivia pulls out this violin that she has rented for Lydia to play so she can play with Nathan, and Olivia just sits back and watches. It's just one of those nice things, just showing them all reconnecting and spending time together. I'm going to summarize the end of this episode pretty fast because there's just not that much for me to say about it. So we have two more things that happen. We see Ethan back in Cairo. He is really happy to be there. He likes being back there. I think if he had his way, that's where he would be. I mean, I think he's even mentioned it back like in the last season. He's fine being there. Now, when he's in Cairo, he has bumped into Barry, Micah, and Isaac. He says it's clear that they all want to spend time with him, but they're really isolating Olivia. No one wants to spend time with her, and he's not okay with that. He's also deeply bothered by everything that's been happening with Moriah. You can just tell he's really hurt by what happened with her. Like he's torn between his dad and his brothers and Olivia, but I don't think he feels that same way about Moriah. I think what happened with Moriah hurts him because he had done so much to help her when she was leaving Kim and Barry's house and when she was trying to make it on her own. And then for her just to turn and not talk to him at all, I think that really, really bothers him. So he's really hurt by that situation. He said one of his biggest regrets was venting to Moriah and Micah about his marriage problems. He said that kind of put things in their minds and they made, assumptions about what they heard, and it just has led to bigger issues. The last part of this episode is Moriah being baptized. Barry is the one that is baptizing her out in a pond. Her whole family is there except Ethan and Olivia, but Kim is present as well as her siblings and some friends. Lydia is super excited that she's being baptized, but really there's not a whole lot to say there. This is what she wants to do. She wants to, come back to her faith. I think she's been out in the world trying to figure out who she is, and she's sort of coming back to where she started. But that is it. That is all for this episode. I thought there were some cute scenes there. I liked watching Olivia and her siblings, and I liked watching Barry and Mike and Isaac out there bowling. We haven't seen that much of Lydia this season, but maybe that's good. This family has enough problems with the siblings that we do see all the time, so maybe it's for the best for her to take a step back. But let's go ahead and get started on episode 4. Okay, I felt like the beginning of episode 4 was pretty slow, so I'm going to go through it kind of quickly so I don't spend a lot of time on it. The show starts off with Olivia driving to Cairo to see Ethan. It is their 4-year anniversary, and she has not seen him in over 2 months. She actually says it was 2 months and 18 days since they've seen each other, so they are eager to be with each other again. She gets there, they talk a little bit about their relationship, they talk about the cars that he's working on, and that's basically it. He's just there working on her cars, and she's there for a visit. Not too much else to say. After this, we go over to the Plath house. Lydia arrives home, her siblings hug her, and then we end up having this scene with her and Isaac that just felt so scripted. It felt like the two of them had been told to talk about every issue that is occurring in their family, but they didn't actually have a whole lot to add to it. The only thing that surprised me was hearing that Ethan was there in town and he had not reached out to Lydia at all, when it doesn't sound like she has a whole lot to do with this situation involving Micah, Moriah, and Kim. I was just surprised by that. She says that Ethan actually called her before he went to Europe and said, "I'll talk to you when I get back about everything." And then she never heard from him and he just shows up in town. So I was a little bit surprised by that. I do think he could spend time with Isaac and Lydia and probably be okay. I don't think they're going to try to cause issues. If he says, I don't want to talk about what's happening, I think that would be fine. I think the problem is Olivia is going to get really upset if he is spending time with them. I don't know if there's a way for him to spend time with Lydia and Isaac and for it to be okay with Micah and Moriah and Olivia. Like, there's just too many ways to be torn here. So that was the part that surprised me. Otherwise, it's just a lot of them talking and not really telling us anything we don't know. I didn't make any notes about anything. And after that, we see Micah over at the Plath house. Barry approaches him and they hang out around the boat that Micah has bought. They talk a little bit about the divorce, and then Micah shares that even though he likes living in LA, he really misses spending time with his family. He feels like he has friends to do things with, but he lives alone, and there's just not people that know him that well. You can tell he's wanting to come back home. And I think the fact that his family has changed is also a part of that. If Kim and Barry were the way they were back in season 1 and they were still, that conservative and let's get real, that judgmental, I don't think he would want to come home. I think Kim and Barry changing has actually helped their relationships with their kids. So I think Micah's kind of like, hey, I might actually enjoy being back here with my family. There is a part of this where Micah asks Barry about dating, and he says he's not worried about dating because he has 6 daughters that he needs to focus on building good relationships with. And you know what? All I could think was, there's another reality TV dad who needs to take that advice for himself. But I'm going to move on from that. After this, we see Isaac and Kim at an airport. We find out that Isaac has partnered with someone from work to buy a plane. So he's essentially buying like half of the plane. He's half owner in it. And the reason that he's able to do this is Kim took out a loan for him. And Kim talks about how she's so happy that she is able to help his dream come true. And that if this had happened before she left Barry, she would have had to went to Barry, get him to agree to it, convince him it was a good idea before she could actually go through with it. And she really likes that she's able to do it independently. She likes that she's just able to go and do this all on her own. So they're out there and Isaac is just thrilled about the idea of having this plane. And the friend of his looks over and says, are you going to ride in the plane with him? And he's talking to Kim. And Kim says, yeah. And then she says this really, really awkward thing. And I'm going to go ahead and put the clip in.
You should get a girl, I'll get a guy, and we'll go on a double date to the Keys for a weekend.
It's just so awkward. Isaac does not want to go on a double date in a plane with his mother. It's just not what he wants to do. And he says, well, I'll get a girl and I'll go. And it's just like, come on, Kim, that was so weird. I mean, I don't think she was thinking when she said it, but it was really awkward. There had been a comment left on one of my other Plathville videos where someone basically said, if this show doesn't pick up, they're not watching anymore. And I can kind of see where they're coming from. This episode just does not have a lot to it. For instance, the next scene of this is just Lydia and Moriah sitting around a fire talking about how Moriah has renewed her faith and how she's going to live differently as a Christian. And that's really it, guys. I could have tried to pull a clip. There's just no reason to. I summed the whole thing up for you. Of course, Lydia is thrilled and just grinning ear to ear about the whole thing. And I mean, it's good for her. It's good for Moriah. It sounds like she was having a bad year. But there's just not that much in this episode when you look at everything we've seen so far. The next part of the show has Olivia and Ethan out for their anniversary dinner. They go to a restaurant that is the same restaurant they went to on their first date. Olivia shares a story about how it took Ethan 20 minutes to order because he struggled to figure out what was on the menu and figure out what he wanted. Ethan actually says he doesn't like the font that was on the menu and he prefers menus that have pictures. I just thought that was sort of a weird story. She actually goes as far as saying he hadn't ordered off a menu very often at that point. And I'm like, man, can you imagine like not having gone to many restaurants, not really being comfortable ordering off a menu, and being on your first date when you're growing up in a faith where dating is associated with marriage, so you're dating to marry? Like, that's so much pressure. She says in the end, he just ended up ordering spaghetti. I'm just throwing that in because I found it amusing. Olivia also talks about how when they were in Europe, they were able to handle things in their relationship better because no one was meddling. I'm only mentioning this because I can see Olivia being the type of person that tries to isolate herself and Ethan from others. She hints, you've seen it throughout the show where she's uncomfortable with him being near his family. And she has valid reasons. It's not as if she's just making this up for nothing at all, but I worry that Olivia could be the type of person that just isolates to feel safe, even when it might not be necessary, not from everyone. So I hope she's able to allow people to get close to her and Ethan so they have a good support system. Not everyone who comes into their life is going to be someone who wants to tear apart their marriage. The last part of this episode shows Barry and Moriah spending the evening together. He has went down to Tampa to support her as she gets new tattoos. And you can tell I don't think he's a fan of it, but he's also okay with it. So I want to put in a little clip of him talking about how he has changed.
2 years ago, I just don't think I'd be having a conversation with Moriah like I'm having.
It's just like I said earlier about Kim and Micah. Their relationship is better because Kim is not as judgmental and nagging as she was before. And it's the same for Barry. They're changed people, so their relationships with their kids are getting better. So we see that there. He doesn't approve of this necessarily, but he's going to support her anyway. It's during this time that we learn that when Moriah was a little girl, she had alopecia. Now that is when you lose your hair, and she lost all of her hair very quickly. So she lost her eyebrows, eyelashes, all the hair on her head, and this was something that was really hard for her. Now, if you've watched this show, you know that Moriah wears a lot of very unique outfits, very colorful, bold colors. She shows a lot of skin sometimes. Listen to what she has to say about how this started when she was a little girl and she had alopecia.
If I had the right clothes on that made me look cuter, then I wouldn't be teased as much.
Moriah says that since that time in her life, she has always felt like if you wear a great outfit, it can make you have a better day. So that sort of explains some of her fashion choices and why she is so into clothing. She also says that when she had alopecia, it made her feel different. And Barry says, but you didn't think we treated you different. And she goes, no, you and Mom always treated me the same as everyone else. You made me feel beautiful. Other people picked on me. Other people made me feel different. And she was like, that has stayed with me my whole life. So one of the tattoos that she's getting is the word rebel on her arm. And I think she's trying to explain that she feels like she just doesn't fit in with other people. And that is sort of where this show ends. And that is it. That is it for episodes 3 and 4 of Plathville. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. Is this show moving a little slow for you guys too? Or are you just enjoying watching this? Because I feel like it's sort of like we're just watching things happen and it's not maybe as dramatic as some other shows are. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I don't dislike it, but I'm not eager to watch it either. So I'm in the middle. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. And if you haven't already, go ahead and click like and subscribe.